Good morning. This is the third talk of the How to Practice Mindfulness in Daily Life series. For those who ask, how can I practice and train my mind in my daily life? Sotaesan, the founding master of Won Buddhism, set forth 6 items for heedfulness in daily applications. And today I'm going to talk about the third one. If you have free time, be heedful to deepen your acquaintance with the scripture and the regulations. This item basically says that we need to spend some time to study the scripture on a daily basis. The 6 items of heedfulness show us the daily routine which we can stick to when we want to continue to practice in our daily life. So when you are participating in a retreat in a place like Won Dharma Center, it's fairly easy to just focus on practice. However, when you return home, you quickly get back to the habitual pattern of your daily life. And you feel like you are not practicing. These 6 items are the answer to the question, how to continue to practice in my daily life. By using these 6 items, we can improve the balance of our practice. The first one is about mindful choice and action. The second one is to prepare things in advance. They are about how you can practice to cultivate your mind when you have work to do, no matter whether it's personal or professional work. The third one is a little different. It is about the free time. Actually, the original Korean text is 노는 time, not the free time. 노는 time is more like chill out time. The time when you entertaining yourself and relax yourself and having fun. But not necessarily with someone else. I think there is a slight difference in the nuance between free time and 노는 time. The things that we do in our free time include some necessary activities such as having quality time with your loved ones, working out, or spending time in nature, etc. Whereas the 노는 time sounds more like leisure time, like watching movies or hanging out with your friends, etc. So they may not be clearly distinguished, but it's interesting to see that Master Sotaesan says, study the scripture when you have chill out time. It sounds pretty generous. I'm not saying that the translation is not correct. I actually think it's a great translation. I just want to point out that in this third item, it's not saying that we must study the scripture whenever we are outside of work. It doesn't say scripture reading is more important than de-stressing and recharging ourselves in our free time. Instead, it's saying that if you have spare time enough to entertain yourself, then be heedful to spend some of this time to deepen your acquaintance with the scripture. So by adding the 5 words, if you have free time, instead of just saying, read the scripture every day, Master Sotaesan is indirectly saying that we have to spend our free time skillfully so that we can invest some of the time in cultivating our wisdom by reading the scriptures. be heedful to read the scripture when you have free time. Does it still sound to you like it is saying that the scripture reading is not as important as other practice? So if you are so busy that you don't have any free time, then it's okay that you don't read the scripture at all? Once you try to put this item number 3 into your practice, then you will realize that it takes a lot of qualities such as focused mind, resolution, consistency, etc. If you are mindful to read the scripture when you have free time, then it means that you want to learn from the enlightened masters. It means that you want to follow their path. Without having your life goal toward the same direction as the spiritual teachers, you'd not want to invest your time in reading the scripture reading, in the scripture reading. Therefore, this simple sentence means that we have to make our mindset aligned with that of the spiritual teachers. Having the aspiration to learn from the scripture using your own free will is a great thing. You are what you think. And what you read influence what you think. So having the aspiration of learning, this is the value that is included in this third item, even though Sote-san does not make it explicit. So what do you do in your evening, your weekends, and vacations? I once tried to track how I spend each 24 hours. I used a time tracking app so that I literally tracked 24 hours for 2 months every day. And I analyzed the chart on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, and a monthly basis. I was pretty obsessed to honestly record my daily life as it was. And every time I analyzed the chart, I was really surprised to see how much time was spent in unnecessary or just time-consuming activities. For example, if I have remaining time between 2 jobs, or if I want to relax after some tiring day, I usually first watch YouTube because there are many great channels that are fun and also educational. So you can learn a lot just by watching 15 minutes or 20 minutes YouTube videos. Or I tend to visit an online news site and just surfing around there, reading news articles. This is how I chill out. And if I tracked each and every minute I spent during the day, I found that those small blocks of time add up to much more time than I expected. Because I usually start to watch YouTube with good cause, of learning something or listening to some lecture or study English. But it often ends up with watching other recommended videos that attract my attention. However, those entertaining videos remain nothing more than the momentary pleasure, which don't make any difference in my life. So if you think you are too busy to spend any time to read the scripture, I recommend that you try the time tracking app. I'm pretty sure that you can find some time for scripture reading. Heedfulness is an important quality for practice. Actually, it is one of the 11 training subjects of Won Buddhism. Unlike other subjects that have a concrete method, such as seated meditation or chanting meditation or journaling practice, heedfulness is a state of mind. Heedfulness means, in Won Buddhist context, it means that state of mind in which we do not forget in each situation to do what we have resolved to do and not to do what we have resolved not to do. So the skillful way of not forgetting or being heedful is to make it part of your daily routine. It is ideal that you set certain time to read the scripture. For me, 10 to 20 minutes before I go to morning meditation is the best time to read the scripture. My brain is the most fresh and focused early in the morning. At this time of the day, I usually read the scripture of Won Buddhist masters. The scripture of Master Sotaesan, or the scriptures of Master Youngsan, the second head Dharma master of Won Buddhism, or the scriptures of Master Taesan, the third head Dharma master. I read them in Korean text. I also have several Western masters that I feel connected to, and I cherish their books. However, I first want to deepen my understanding of the teaching in the Won Buddhist tradition, rather than becoming knowledgeable in many books. The more clear my understanding of Won Buddhist scripture is, the better I can appreciate the teachings of other traditions too. Because the similar concepts such as emptiness or the original nature, for example, they are expressed with just different languages in different traditions. What matters is whether you really have a grasp of the teachings of a tradition. I remember when I first read the scripture of Master Taesan. By the way, it is not translated yet into English. I was a sophomore in college. One day, Rev.Jieun, at the time he was a teacher of the Won Buddhist circle in my college, and he gave me the Master Taesan's scripture. And at first, I was frustrated because I could hardly understand any of Master Taesan's words in the book. So I put it aside and just read it once in a while. And 1 year later, when I was a junior, for some reason, I liked reading the book, Master Taesan's scripture. Even though I did not understand everything that it says, I felt some kind of comfort while I was reading it. So I underlined some sentences that I felt were inspiring. And as years passed, the underlined passages continued to increase. Likewise, the understanding of the scriptures can deepen as your practice progresses. Ministers in training need to take an exam in order to be ordained. There are several subjects, including Master Sotaesan scripture. So the principal book and the Master Sotaesan scripture are the basic, the scriptures, fundamental principles, fundamental scriptures of Won Buddhism. So I read it so many times, just like you study a textbook for an exam. However, every time I read the scripture of Master Sotaesan, I still find something new. I think it's because the level of my understanding becomes different, becomes deeper as I read them over and over and over. So these days, there are many resources other than books. So you can take online classes, or listen to the lectures, or Dharma talks on podcast or YouTube. So you can use them depending on your situations. However, if you watch YouTube, just be careful about the recommended videos. I have learned the important directions of my spiritual practice from my teachers in Won Buddhist tradition and through their scriptures. It is said that the way subsisted in the universe before the birth of the sage. After the teachers and masters pass away, the way remains in scriptures. I hope I can learn the teaching of Master Sotaesan and other masters deep in my heart, not just in my head. I pray that I can follow their path and share it with others. This is why I've been giving kind of lecture series of the 6 items of heedfulness of daily applications. I hope my Dharma talks can deliver the teachings of Master Sotaesan as correctly as possible. If you have free time, be heedful to deepen your acquaintance with the scriptures. Thank you.